divides the school population between those who love the rain noise because it connects them with the outside, and those who think it's a distraction from the process of delivery. S is for social. For me, social is synonymous with special space. In the case of Kingsdale, we made one house structure for each of the 5 houses to use 1 day a week each. So rather than make 5 houses, we made the one that we share on a rotating basis. It's a bigger improvement on their strata of year separation. They had a hierarchy and bullying consequences based on year groups. Now they have house groups which cut across that. This is their house. It's a softwood structure and it works. This is where they show films, have meetings, presentations, performances. The students use it as they see fit. S is for sport, and the sadness of sports halls is something that has been taken on, not just by the setting and the idea that the sports complex is the gateway from the community to the school, a new gateway, but it's also about sunlight and arguing for space and light in a building typology which is quite often blind and dumb and dark and metal. T is for teacher. I'm someone who thinks that teachers matter more than schools, but you can't keep them at schools if it's a horrible school building. They'll go to a better one. So turnover was important, and interestingly the morale of the school population went up even during construction, let alone after it was finished. So staff turnover has gone down to the benefit of the education in the school. T is also for trees, of which I've spoken. It's for tectonics and technology. U is for unsustainable, and the untenable truth that construction materials are simply divided into those that produce more carbon than they weigh and those that don't, i.e. timber. V is for view, and the introverted world of schools does instill points of view in their internal world. In a subliminal way, they give messages that we carry our whole lives. I think the role of the school window is critical. It's not just the arguments about whether you can see out of it or not from your school desk. It's about what do they look at and how do they make contact with the outside. W is for world. For me that means the world of wood. And I would like to draw your attention to the fact that Europe, that line's in the wrong place. It should be underneath Europe, which actually has 25% of global timber production. And that includes all the timber you wouldn't use, all the hardwoods, all the oaks. I'm just talking about the fast-growing crops that you can use for engineered timber that doesn't need 100 years to grow. So if you look at the next slide, the x-axis, Scotland's opportunity is extraordinary. The line has shifted, but it did pass through Edinburgh, which actually is on the southern edge of the blue zone, which represents all of the spruce and fir global production, which I believe is the hope for sustainable future building construction. Y is for yes, 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 and yo and all the others, and the fact that the head now seems to wear Yves Saint Laurent. Z is for zeitgeist, and I want to finish by saying, what is a school today? Is it a forum? Is it a meeting point? Is it a toolbox? Is it a childcare system? Is it a site of opportunity? Of repression? Is it a facilitator? A penal system? Or is it a car park with sporting facilities? Is it an inspiration? the head quoted, "We asked for an aeroplane. The architects gave us Concorde." I'm very proud of that. And that's my case for schools somewhere to light candles, not fill vessels. Thank you.
Alex, thank you actually for a wonderful representation of school as object, but not as icon, but actually as something that really raises aspirations and embeds a sense of meaning, it transmits meaning, tremendous. Frank, now, school as an idea and as ideal, that's the other side of the coin. We've heard about the spatial, now the kind of pedagogical, two things together.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you, John. Before Alex started to speak, I bet you were guessing who the architect was and who the inspector was. I dress like that at the weekend, and Ali dresses like this at the weekend. So, the first thing I want to begin with, obviously, is that this is all about children. And we've got to keep that at front of our minds. If it's about children in Scotland, we're developing curriculum for excellence. I guess one of the things we might do is to look at a transposition of the school as a person, as a young person. And we're trying to develop the core idea in curriculum for excellence in Scotland is to develop the capacities as defined by curriculum for excellence in our young people. So maybe the questions to begin with are, to what extent is the school a successful learner and successful at learning? How adaptable is it for the future? To what extent is the school a confident learning space? To what extent is it a responsible school? And that brings in the notions of sustainability and so on. And the fourth one is, to what extent is the school, excuse me, an effective contributor to its role in building community capacity? So when I was thinking about this talk, I looked at one of the kind of brainstorming things that my colleagues had done in looking at things that might affect the future of education. I don't expect you to read all of them, I just expect you to be impressed by the fact that inspectors actually sit and do these things. And the learning space is but one of those. And like everything in education, it's a bit like herding cats soaked in snake oil and chasing red herrings. You know, it's a combination of a difficult thing to get your head around. And I decided to use the same technique to reflect on the kind of words that have been used to describe the schools that I have been in my career. And there have been long schools, big schools, fat schools, old schools, new schools, and so on. And I've been to a number of schools in different parts of the world, and those are a few of the countries that I visited schools in. And they're all amazingly, remarkably similar in some ways, but very, very different in others. When I started my career teaching, my first job, full-time teaching, was in 1969. You'll all be doing the fingers and counting there. In a wooden hut in the middle of Black Hill in Glasgow. And that's where I learned to survive. Black Hill is one of these places you don't go at night, or you didn't used to go in those days. And why are they all so different? And I suppose the question is, why should they not be so different? Why shouldn't we have diversity in school design in the same way that to survive we need diversity in everything? And also to remember that a school is the result of a democratic process, what you're looking at. The funding comes from democratic decisions. The people who get engaged in design, there's much more community involvement now, and so on. So at each stage there are decisions, and quite often they are democratic decisions. And then it reflects